Hello, I'm Sarah Brown, Acting Director of HP and IOL. I would like to share with you a brief explanation of the process we've used to boil down complex, synthesized data to 5 themes around which we will hold focus groups. If you remember from previous videos, after we identified the top 5 ways that employees are killed and injured, we then did a condition mapping exercise on the top 3 types for each category. Let's talk a bit about that to jog our memory. This is a list of common conditions that we used during the condition mapping exercise. Each time one of these conditions was found in one of the Lessons Learned Center reports, it was noted in a spreadsheet, along with some of the specific language that was associated with the condition. Just as a reminder, here are the top 3 accident types. For fatalities, we condition mapped aviation, hit by, as in hit by a tree, entrapment or burnover, and motor vehicle accidents. For injuries, we condition mapped hit by, motor vehicle accidents, and acute medical. These top 3 categories included 36 events, which is 85% of the fatality incidents. You can see that hit by and motor vehicle accidents were common accident types between both fatalities and injuries. The condition mapping process produced more than 1,400 reference conditions. There were 891 conditions in the fatality reports and 535 conditions in the injury incidents. At this point, HP and IOL reached out for expert assistance from David Flores and Emily Hare, research social scientists with the Rocky Mountain Research Station. David and Emily employed accepted social science analysis methodology to help us make sense of all of this qualitative data that came from our condition mapping efforts. The software helped them explore commonalities across types of incidents and within conditions of influence. David and Emily helped reduce bias in the meta review process by providing fresh eyes and were able to help us use a repeatable, standard approach for dealing with large quantities of qualitative data. This is just one of the many tables from their analysis. We see here conditions of influence are ranked by prevalence, both for the fatality events on the left and the injury events on the right. You can see, for instance, that operational influences in the middle top rank number 1 for both fatalities and injuries. This means that the most common underlying condition for the top 3 accident types were categorized as operational influences. As we read through the report, we saw great value in this process and asked David and Emily to help us with another similar report. When we saw how useful the reports were, HP and IOL decided to randomly select 35 no-consequent event reports to condition map as well. These reports represent normal work when there isn't a negative outcome, work that was just done normally. Having 2 reports from David and Emily would allow us to compare and contrast normal work and work when there was a negative outcome. We completed our condition mapping exercise again and gave the condition mapping data to David and Emily, asking them to analyze the data using the same software and techniques. We then had 2 reports to make sense of, one that represented all conditions associated with fatalities and injuries, and one that represented normal work. The next step in our larger meta review process was to use focus groups to validate our existing data, as well as provide new and innovative ideas from multiple perspectives that may not be clear or may not be found in the original data. In order to have a successful focus group, we knew that the topic needed to be defined and clear. The reports that David and Emily produced were rich and detailed, but provided information across many themes and concepts. In order to narrow our analyzed data down to focus groupable topics, we created a process to extract the most important, most frequent themes that needed further analysis by a focus group. The first step in this process was for 8 people from HP and IOL to individually analyze the 2 reports. Each of these HP and IOL team members, plus 1 academic specialist, read the reports that David and Emily created with the intent of looking for what themes stood out, what was important, and what we should be paying attention to. This individual analysis phase produced 8 different individual syntheses of the reports with the intent to boil the data down for focus grouping efforts. Next, all 8 of these individuals met to hold a focus group that was focused on our individual analyses. During this focus group, several things became clear as each person presented their individual analysis of the 2 reports. First was that we are absolutely working in a complex adaptive system where everything is interconnected. Nodes, which can be thought of as either a process, an entity, or a community, are connected to other nodes, such that if you change or tweak one thing, it has the possibility of impacting everything else, or just some things, depending on the connections. As we started talking through how each person interpreted the reports, several supernodes, or nodes that seemed highly relevant or super important to the interconnections, stood out. These started to become themes as we talked through them further. The first is the very fact that our fire system produces injuries and fatalities. The second is the perceived expectation, relationship, and intent that society places on fire in the agency. The third is that there are a web of monetary incentives that drive decisions and actions in fire and in the agency. The fourth is the ecology of fire, our understanding of fire as it relates to our natural environment. At the end of the focus group, we settled on these 4 themes to construct our focus group efforts around. During consultation with one of our academic experts, Dr. Shine, he pointed out that when he read the reports, 2 things stood out as threads that ran throughout each of the existing topics. These were the way we communicate and the work environment, how we treat each other, and what kind of environment we work in. This became our 5th focus group. I hope this process explains how we got from reading accident and incident reviews to the 5 themes that we are now holding focus groups around: society and fire, communication and work environment, fatalities and injuries, ecology, and budgetary incentives of fire. We plan to hold one final focus group that will be comprised of HP and IOL team members and several specialists, with the intent of making sense of what we learned from all the focus groups and the interconnections between the topics. We're excited to learn through this process. Thank you for your time today.